Good evening. You are listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. I have from the Great Midwest RDV. Tonight we're going to be discussing from 2023 a movie that's a foreign film, believe it or not, that's actually pretty damn good called The Three Musketeers. I, of course, am broadcasting to you from the Xtreme Studios in the Xtreme Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida, and RDV, again from the Great Midwest. We're going to be talking about this film because in our summer preview, RDV, we mentioned some
Yeah.
films, and one that stood out that we reviewed here at the start of summer was Extraction and Extraction 2. And one of the main things we pointed out was that we liked a lot of the long single take action sequences with the camera. We talked about how when we reviewed John Wick, how they definitely set up for it, especially the overhead shot and with using the guns in the house with the fire explosives. And to me, the one thing about this movie I got to say is, of course, this is not like your Charlton Heston version. This is not like a Disney version. This is
Yep.
its own version. But damn it, they did a lot of action in here, pretty good adventure stuff. They, spoiler alert, minor for those that give a rat's ass. They do kind of a PC woke thing with one character in a brief scene, but
Didn't
that's
even.
it. And then they don't
That
shove
is
it
very
down your
brief because
throat.
I didn't see that. All I saw was like I said, all I saw was the girl.
Yeah, and so that's really kind of all you have to
Yeah.
know about it, really. But it's beautiful. It's very lush. It reminds me of The Count of Monte Cristo, how that was such a fun film 20 years ago with Jim Caviezel
Yes.
here too.
It's a time period piece. It's got like the Man in Iron Mask, very well done to detail. It's only available in English sub and available on pirate sites right now. I tried looking for it legally, tried to buy it. It is not available anywhere because it is made in France. It's a French movie for their for their audiences. Uh, Hopefully, his rumor is coming in the Blu-ray, so you might be able to, if you want to watch it that way, you could purchase it through Blu-ray, but I'm not sure when it's coming out, if it already is out. But I saw that Eva Green was in this. I was like, what is this? Like
That
Eva
made me
Green's-
want to see it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, for those who have seen the Disney version, you remember the one that Athos was in love with, and then she falls off the cliff. That's this basically kind of this girl, but not that girl. This
Yeah, there's a little bit of liberties with this film
Yeah.
with it. You're right. And
Yeah.
with the Disney version, they really sanitized it down, but we're going back a ways.
Yes, D'Artagnan's character in here is pretty much it's called Three Musketeers. D'Artagnan, and his D'Artagnan is the lead in here. And I gotta say, I liked it. It was a little more serious. There was some comedy, situational comedy. Not it's not like the Disney one where you're like, oh hey ugly, it's something like that. Basically, D'Artagnan ends up getting in a fight with each of the Musketeers, and they all have to have a duel with them. The duel is outlawed by the King of France because they're tired of people being murdered. Basically, the guy's a pushover. Louis, I forget what eighth, yeah. Anyway, so it's a little comedy like that, but overall, we find out through the movie is that there was a basically that the king's wife is having an affair with basically one of the British prince over in Buckingham, and so basically the cardinal who basically wants control. He wants to kill the king. So he's gonna try it, and he's threatened by the queen because the queen is a just person, and basically once he learns of that she's having an affair, tries to get her killed, and then tries to frame her because she ends up giving her necklace away to her betrothed, their lover, as a sign of proof of her love, even though they can't be together anymore. It is just crazy, like betrayal, love, and just fighting. Pretty much. D'Artagnan, though, I'm not sure who the main, because it's all in French. I don't really know. It's Francis Seville, Vincent Cassel, and Roman Duris.
That's a Cassell people know.
Yeah. So Francis Seville. He is D'Artagnan. Athos is Vincent Cassel.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta say, the guys who did Aramis and Porthos were actually really fun as well. And then there's basically as D'Artagnan's basically Athos is basically framed for killing this girl after they basically killed a bunch of 20 men of the king's men, made them out. It wasn't the king's men, it was the cardinal's guards.
Cardinal Richelieu.
Yeah, killed them all, and then they go basically are scolded in front of the king. He's like, "Who do you serve?" Well, you, and I just love it, the whole thing. And then they're basically like, at the end, the king basically gives he's like, well, D'Artagnan, give this man some clothes, over, gives him money. They go celebrate. Athos gets drunk, wakes up naked to next to a woman who's been stabbed multiple times. So he ends up basically, they had the trial. He says, like, I'm not going to lie to avoid death. I don't know if I killed her or not. So he's about to be beheaded. They have 4 days to prove his innocence. D'Artagnan recognizes the girl, the deceased girl from the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
And it's just betrayal, secrets, swashbuckling, everything you want from it.
It's and again, to restate it to Jim and everybody just joining in the chat, this is a very good-looking film. One of the things I thought was interesting about it was, again, being a foreign film, we talk about with the blockbuster movies like the Meg. It's an American movie, but it's really made for a Chinese audience, and Chinese audience will take an American movie and make it for their audience, and those kinds of crossover things. This one is definitely very European in feel, and
like the British the BBC movies.
Exactly, like some of the stuff that we've covered on that. The way this movie's structured, though, it seems like it's an action movie in a way, because, you start off with him, and it's at night or like that, and he's, on his horse, and he's winding down for the night, and he hears a gunshot and a woman screaming.
Yeah.
So he grabs his sword and he runs, and he gets in this big fight and duel, and then he, it's a single like camera action take, kind of like Extraction, like I mentioned earlier, and it's actually done pretty well because it's a low version looking up, so the speed looks pretty damn good with it, and so you're like, okay, I'm getting into this, and he opens up and there's a beautiful blonde woman sitting in there, and you got this thing, and he this barrel point at him, and he gets shot.
He gets shot in the shoulder, yes.
The most beautiful, extravagant, French woman. There's an Eva Green popping out there with that friggin' hat and she's just got an allure to her. She's very captivating, mesmerizing, whatever you want to call it. She's only gotten better with age, and she was great in Casino Royale and other things.
So Eva Green was there. Basically, goes in there by the woman, grabs the note, sealed notes.
She grabs a mysterious note,
and that's basically, you can tell she's working for the Cardinal later on, because anyway, so she reads the note, throws it in there. And as far as you know, this woman's left alive.
Yes.
It doesn't kill her.
But they bury him dead.
Yes. I think he's dead.
I want to pause for a moment here before we continue, because we have a special guest here, Comic Book Corner 2.0. That's my main man, Mike. Check his channel out. He does a lot of what you do, or you do a lot of what he does, whatever, where you're reviewing stuff and all that too. This guy is an icon. He's outstanding. And I'm not the big comic book guy in the world, but I always recommend people to your channel and his channel. And that's it, baby. So welcome to Comic Book Corner. I know you're popping in for a moment. yeah. Robert's the street name, Ed. But everyone still calls me Rob.
Everyone calls you Rob Zilla, right? Just like Gator.
Yeah, especially when we're out there in our day jobs. So what's cool about this is, after about the first 5 minutes in, you're like, okay, this looks great. It's got a nice action piece. There's mystery. There's beautiful women. A guy is buried alive, and he comes out of it, and you're like, okay, this is kind of nonsense. But that's the intrigue. You want to know where this is going. And the backstory to it, especially if you watched this when you're younger and didn't get it, is you had Catholics and you had Protestants over in France. So Cardinal Richelieu, I believe, was Catholic, and the other guy, the main king, was like Protestant. So the whole thing about the wife having an affair, basically the Catholics are trying to frame the Protestants for it, and they even have a sniper shot in here later on towards the end.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they're drumming it up a little bit politically, but the idea is that you got a guy and a bunch of other competent men with them. They have this bromance where they kind of bring them along too, and you're right, it's just a simple adventure story where we get everything that we want. And that being said, it's not overly graphic or vulgar. A young kid can watch this.
So it's swashbuckling, and then they have the pistols, the dueling pistols, which carry 2 shots.
Yes.
It's just it's a suspense thriller pretty much. With swashbuckling, like I said, I don't need Sting and Bryan Adams and other guys singing all for one for all. The Disney, like I said, I do like the Disney film, but I like this. This is a much more adult, more serious. I kind of want to go back and watch the original before the Disney one. They heard,
several versions of it going
several
back.
Versions.
The Michael
Uh,
York version in chat, Ed was asking, is it as good as that one? And it's just very different. That's a great question by Ed. Of course, there's a Charlton Heston version from the early 70s that they used to show in school all the time. And there's a
mhm.
couple other versions as well. But this is a very big remake that hadn't happened in a long time on the big screen too. But I wanted to ask you this because we may have a different thoughts on this, but you and I, of course, recently reviewed Last Voyage of the Demeter. We both
Yes.
agreed that it was a fantastic looking film, start to finish, with the practical effects. What did you think about this film? How that looked?
It's the same. It's a time period drama. So basically, very much like the BBC, or even you look at the Hammer films. Very attention to detail. People are drawing, the way people talk, the way people, the buildings, everything. I love it. It's based. It's very astute looking. Very like I said, right down the detail. These people are pay attention to as far as the way people act and everything, the culture, everything. Um, even like I said, like I love there's even a masquerade ball here, and it's at
Yes,
the end. Yeah, because
you
they have
got to
this.
have it. I mean, you just have to. In a
Oh,
period piece, you've got to have a masquerade ball.
and I go back to what was the Count of Monte Cristo had one, I believe, as well. And then what was the other movie? Then we had the Dracula movie. It was the Van Helsing. Even though that was not as good, I still like the detail as far as the masks. D'Artagnan, like I said, I've never heard of this guy before, but I hate to say that because I know Vincent Cassel because I've seen him in other movies, but a lot of French actors, I feel bad because I'm sure they're probably famous over there, but they're not world famous. Where
Right.
we hear
Because
we know,
Cassell's like that,
yeah,
like French prick guy that you want to
yeah,
punch, because he usually plays like a heavy.
yeah.
He kind of, I wouldn't say that he plays a heavy in here because of the situation, but
He's
he's one that you can go back and go, yeah, he was in this film, that film. I recognize that
yeah,
guy.
yeah. So, like I said, I know all the Hollywood actors, but I'm kind of ignorant when it comes to some of the more obscure French actors, because we all talk about, Christopher Lambert made it over, but
Bridget Bardot.
but I yeah, Bridget Bardot. Like I said, this goes to prove my point. And as far as I've always said this, when you look outside of Hollywood, you go to foreign films, whether it's Korea, China, or even France, German films, they are much more. They don't have as much restrictions as Hollywood is. Hollywood is pretty much a 10-year-old spoiled prince, basically saying you can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. Where they're like, we're gonna do whatever we want. It's like we're actually gonna. They're all about art. And they have a lot to choose from. If you think about it.
Well, on a bigger picture, you're bringing up an interesting point here because, like we mentioned with Dracula, the whole idea of the Demeter was a chapter out of the book, which is an
Yeah.
interesting, unique take on it, and it's a very dreadful kind of film in that there's no happiness to it, which is very unique, which
Mhm.
I like that spin on it. It's definitely different. But America's only got a couple hundred years of culture in it, right? And so
Yes.
while we joke about the 80s things that happen that are just pure Americana and it only happened in an 80s film, you've got hundreds and thousands of years of culture to draw upon if you're England or if you're France or what's going on. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that you're right, they do have a lot that they can draw upon from their
We
history.
have World War II, Civil War, basically just the Wild West. That's our big,
We have Abraham
place.
Lincoln
Yeah.
Vampire Hunter,
All right.
right? I mean, that's about it.
Yeah.
Um,
But
Go ahead.
yeah, I would say I do. I love it. It's true. Whether it's British or it's anything in the United Kingdom, or is it still called United Kingdom anymore? Can't remember. There's Brexit, all that weird stuff. But yeah, they can do knights, they can do Vikings, they can do anything they want over there. I mean, Three Musketeers has always been one of those historical culture romance, stories you can tell. D'Artagnan, he's the youngest one trying to prove himself. He wants to join with the other guys. The guys kind of haze him, but then he wins their loyalty, proves that he can hang with them. As romance angles in here, like I said, the betrayal, the sword fighting, and just downright evil versus good.
Well, and they made D'Artagnan his love interest in here. They didn't like make it where she's like all goo goo and gaga over the guy. She's
No,
very kind of competent, and he
she was
didn't seem
actually
like
good looking.
a little high school boy or whatever. I mean, it was
Yeah,
done like to your point, a little bit more adult like and professional, which I I respected the fact that they did that. And the whole idea here, the backstory is that because they've proven themselves, and they've got a guy set up that if they can steal the diamonds back in a couple days and bring them
Yeah,
back, then all will be well in the world of France, as long as
because
you're not on the Catholic side, I guess, because they were
yeah,
trying to use that to set up this thing so they could kind of take over. That's
and
the
the,
whole
the
idea of
king
it.
is such a pushover. You got the queen firing the gun and shooting, killing pigeons, and he's kind of looks like he's a pansy boy. Like he doesn't want to soil his hands. He basically just he believes the cardinal. He's eating out the cardinal's hand. The cardinal, so he's like, if we can get rid of the queen, she's the only one that actually has balls, because this guy's, basically.
And it's kind of weird because it's like I don't know if that's historically accurate.
I don't know
I don't
either,
claim to be a history buff,
but
but it definitely stood out to you exactly. He was just like a cuck, right? I mean,
yeah.
it's like,
Well,
oh, okay,
it's
I'll buy you this nice diamond ring thing. She's like, okay, I'll give it to my side piece. I mean,
I
that's really
want-
what happens here.
I mean, it also comes into play is when you watch movies like this in that time period, they're arranged marriages. Athos talks about a girl he was in love with once. She was only 15 years old. She was arranged marriage, forced to marry this, this abbot guy or earl of her. But then one night he tries to rape her, and she basically defends herself, runs away. And then when she finally she runs to another local kingdom or nearby. The guy cares more about his title and hands her over. She's basically branded and then hung. And that's why Athos says, I don't believe in love anymore, because love just it's
That's
it
a
leads you astray.
great Queensryche song, by the way, but
Yeah.
that's for another time.
I know.
Let me say this. I was really awestruck by how beautiful this movie is. And I was like, damn it, this, like I said, it reminds me of the Count of Monte Cristo, where you're outside most of the time. You got a lot of these great action scenes in the takes.
The woods.
Yeah. The best scene to me is actually towards the end. And it sounds silly because it's not as big as the other action scenes that you get in here. It's the scene where he's chasing her down horse to horse, and you get the overhead shots by the cliff
trying to
or whatever.
grab the reins or the horse that was tying it to the saddle.
Yeah, and they're just trying to go back and forth, and you're like, okay, but they do it in such a way where it's not all these quick cuts or zoom ins or whatever. You get this nice long little watch over it, and he ends up getting the diamonds, and he's approaching her, and Eva Green, she's just so sumptuous. She's talking to him, and she's right at the back of the edge of this cliff, and you go, they filmed that with real light on the cliff somewhere. I don't know if it was actual Normandy or wherever the hell they were at. And then she just kind of course, backs off and throws herself allegedly to her death. And it's almost at the end of the movie. But just watching that,
and she says, it says like she basically says something. It's like, you believe in love, but love will lead you astray, and all that stuff. And I was they're kind of saying, like, they're kind of hinting that maybe that was Athos' girlfriend. Maybe she wasn't hanged. But then again, they never showed Athos and her together, so we're not gonna know. But regardless of, she's like, you won't win against the cardinal. The cardinal always wins, basically. And then she's like, and basically get the last laugh. She kills herself, jumps off in the just, and oh allegedly. My gosh, yeah. Thanks for stopping by, man. Checked your channel a few times. I gotta say, like, I like your little style. You're man, I guess. But
he's a positive man. What can I say?
And it's all done on his phone too, right? Isn't it?
Shh. I don't tell.
Well, no, I mean, he's got the after the pull, I love that stuff in the car, man. If you're having fun, you can make your videos easy enough, simple enough, and still look awesome. Why do more? What gets you the results gets you results. It's all good, bro.
Yeah, and I think here, as far as finishing up talking about this film here a little bit, again, I was really surprised by it. It was something you and I had talked about backstage, but I don't think it made our summer preview list. But it was like, oh, this looks good. It looks promising. It might be worth checking out. But it had already been released. But the one thing about the way this movie is written, they took, like I say, a few liberties with it. It's only part one. There's a part two coming out.
Exactly. Which I did not know until I got to the end, and it's like, it continued. I love that the 90s continued.
Yeah, to be continued.
So it ends.
He's slapjacked and he's knocked out. Bam! By one of the milady. That's what they call Eva Green. One of her thugs, one of her goons, right? One of her pieces of muscle over there. Okay, things aren't done yet.
So the movie ends with D'Artagnan getting the necklace back after Eva Green basically kills herself. It'd be funny if she comes back, she's still alive. She's on a branch. She didn't die.
It's Eva Green, right?
She didn't die. She's on a branch. So anyway, he gets the necklace, returns because the prince, the king demanded, like, well, where's your necklace? And if you don't have it by this time then I'll know you're a liar. He suspects her because he overheard D'Artagnan talking to his lady friend, about it, and that's how that's the cardinal got word of it, and the king thinks that she's cheating on him, and she's like, no, I would never betray you, my husband, and so D'Artagnan gets the necklace to his lady friend, and she's because she's about to come out, and she was wearing it, and the cardinal's got this smug look on his face, and I love D'Artagnan's his lady friend's just basically like, yeah, sorry. um, so then there's another thing going on too, another story, because Athos was supposed to be beheaded, but instead he's not saved by his friends. He's saved by his brother, who's the leader of the Protestants.
Yes.
Yes, and and he's with them. But then, as they're supposed to have this meeting going, or the wedding of the king's brother, and well, Athos learns, remembers the words of his brother. He's talking about, we're going to strike at the heart of France, and that's that day that's going on. So Athos comes in there. They stop a plot to kill the king. Athos is basically at the end is basically giving a pardon by the king. Mm-hmm. D'Artagnan's made a musketeer. As well, and then the queen approaches D'Artagnan, giving him a picture of the girl that he likes, and she was my messenger, but now you are, and I'll see you at the tavern like this, there are many places for a message with notes. So all's well until we see basically D'Artagnan's lady friend. It kills me, I can't remember what her name is. It's got a listed here too somewhere, but anyway, she basically ends up. Oh yeah, it was Constance. That's what her name is. Constance ends up hearing some whisper going on, and the door's open, and you can't tell, but it sounds like the cardinal talking to two goons, saying like, "We failed to kill the king, but we'll do it again. We'll this time." They notice her. They follow her out in the alleyway, and then while D'Artagnan's in his room upstairs, she screams for him. He runs out, chase after. He sees her. She's got dragged the carriage. The carriage is going away. He gets knocked out from behind.
Slapjack.
Yeah.
Just like that, out of nowhere. That's how we do it here in the hood.
Literally Billy Club to the back of the neck.
That's right. That's a slapjack.
Oh, I love it.
From behind.
And
bam.
So
that's all it takes.
I'm looking forward to the next one. I have to look up to see exactly if there's mention of when they're going to do it. And the great thing about this is that in the UK, there's no strikes. So your chances of getting this movie is much sooner than you think.
It's coming out a little later in the year. I thought it was like November-ish, roughly, there as far as a release.
Most people just film. I mean, if you're going to do a two-part movie, do what Richard Donner did. Do it 2 movies at once.
That's what they did.
Yeah, because honestly, I hate waiting 5 years. By the time I get to like the third movie, I'll probably be in my 50s.
Now, the notes I read about movies that cost roughly around 35 million American to produce it, which is pretty high for them, and just goes to show that while they have a different economic structure over there and working environment, so you can't necessarily compare the amount of money that they spend to American money. You can just translate it. Obviously here, it's almost, you can't make a movie unless it's 100+ million. And even then it costs a lot more for a lot of reasons. And we can argue unions and all that stuff. But the bottom line, you go, wow, only 35 million. And it's a pretty damn good film. And they're making a second one. So it's definitely, the interesting thing about these movies is every once in a while, like when you're a kid, you're like, oh, why are these books classics? Mm-hmm. And your teachers would always say, well, this tells a story of this and that, and it starts somewhere, and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then you realize, okay, it's kind of cool, and then you see that in other things, so you get like the template that you can see how these stories are formed. And when you get older and you get really, really smart, you go, okay, this one's the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell would talk about, and it looks like this or like that, and there's a theme to it, and whatever culture you go to has a similar theme: coming of age, romance, this, that, whatever, life after death, religion, whatever it is. But as an American, I go, man, those damn British and Europeans had a corner on all this history, because we don't have it, relatively speaking. So they can film movies that look really good, and they can always go, you know what, it's been 10 years. Let's just do another Three Musketeers. Let's just do another Sherlock Holmes. Oh, let's just do another this. But the other reason why that's important is because roughly turn of the century, especially by American law, and American law is unique in the world. Some of it's taken from, obviously French law, liberty, and all that.
Mhm.
But the whole idea of intellectual property rights, that when Disney formed as a company, really put the stranglehold on people having a lot more free use of it, right? So that's why Disney kind of goes back and forth. And if you look at it, all their stories, that like Snow White, like, I know that's an upcoming movie allegedly.
It looks
They
horrible.
take
Yeah.
it's not so much to talk about that as that's really a takeoff of something else. Grimm's fairy tales,
Sure.
and all that stuff.
Um,
So it's interesting because I just go, damn it, why don't we have that here in America? It's like,
so
I'm sure we'd all love the Three Stooges get rebooted.
you talked about the budget of this movie. The budget was 36 million, and the box office was only like 35 in France and Germany. It was released back in April.
Hmm.
I do not see it on any streaming platforms whatsoever, which really concerns me because I'm like, if you make more money if you put it on the United States. So I don't know if this is ever going to get released in the United States. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe because of the strike, it caused problems because the people who do the DVDs or whatever. Anyway, but honestly, I don't think this movie is a flop. Like I
No,
said,
it's not flop.
I thought this was actually did well. What it was, in fact, you said you're taking on a movie, a reboot of a reboot of reboots. This movie's been done to death. It's probably like 17 or 30 copies.
And you could keep doing it.
Yeah,
You could do another Hercules film.
Oh my gosh! Like I said, I would love a Robin Hood movie.
Yeah,
but not the Russell Crowe crap. I want an actual good movie. Yeah, I did not use a VPN. I just went to 1, 2, 3 movies actually, and I watched them that way. But honestly, though,
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts on this movie. We talked about the visual, everything as far as the detail down to the carriages, the cobbled streets, everything. Hollywood does not do shit like this.
No, they don't.
Barely. The last time I saw Hollywood do anything like this was what was that? Oh, Sleepy Hollow. Back in the 90s with Johnny Depp and Tim Burton stuff. And it's very little. This is kind of like like the Christmas Carol, if you watched it, the attention to the detail. So visually stunning, special. I don't think there was really special effects. It was just basically prop guns going off, people falling, people getting shot, people getting stabbed with swords. So you really didn't need any CG at all. There wasn't anything like that.
No, it's pretty much CG free. That's the beauty of
Yes.
it. It's an extravagant looking film, not overly expensive. It looks great. This is cinematography. This is enjoyable. This is a very fun movie to watch, even if you don't care about the politics and the backstory. You don't have to, because it's genuine. There's not a lot of boohooing. It's good fare, and it's well done. Like I say, a kid could watch it, an adult could get a different meaning out of some of the scenes. It's crafted well.
The only nudity here is when they show the dead girl.
And it's not. It's not.
It's not even there.
It's nothing. It's nothing. And by European standards, it's literally nothing, really.
It looks like a girl before plastic surgery. That's what it looks like. It looks like the 70s. But yeah, like I said, I hope that this gets a U.S. release, even for a limited time. I'd love to see it in a theater. It is 2 hours exactly long. So, and I usually when I complain when I was like these period pieces like this, it's like, okay, it's gonna take forever. It's gonna drag.
I didn't think you'd like it, to be honest.
No, it didn't drag at all. It actually went on and it had a nice, decent pace.
I agree.
Yeah. Like I said,
I'll go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when you have a decent writer on, you can go as long as 4 hours and I'll still be entertained.
Yeah, it's brisk.
Yeah, but definitely on a scale, I'll do. It's easier for me to do 1 out of 5 than 1 out of 10. I'll say I love this. This is close to about a 4.5 stars out of 5 for me.
Nice.
Music was great too.
You like this kind of stuff, go check it out. It's definitely worth it. It's just a good film. It's a film that's done well, even if you don't like this kind of stuff. It's what I miss sometimes. I wish we had more just adventure movies like this. And I understand, over on your all's channels, talk a little bit more about comic book movies and that sort of stuff occasionally. And I understand that's replaced a lot of stuff, but it's like we don't have Westerns anymore. I kind of miss not knowing there's 1 or 2 out there.
Yeah.
I will say this. I know you and I had talked off screen at the last minute about a lot of different things here, even though we tentatively scheduled this in, which I'm glad we did because it's a really fun film. But I just want to give a shout out. And I may be the person behind in chat here as far as who's seen it, but I really recently started watching season 1 of Only Murders in a Building with Steve Martin and Martin Short, and it's
Yeah,
by far the best TV show I've watched this year. And we've seen a couple. I've talked about Silo. And we've done some older ones. Professor Pixel and I we were finishing up We just finished Wayward Pines. We've done Twin Peaks. We've done a lot, but this show's funny. They're half-hour episodes. The Harrison Ford one, where he plays like the boss of a bunch of like psychologists, where that's good. It's very PC and 2023ish as far as ideology. That being said, it works and it's effective and it's good too. But this one, the chemistry with Martin Short and Steve Martin, and I have to say, I don't know much about her and don't really give a rat's ass, but Selena Gomez, it's fun. I'm like, thank you. There's no messaging going on. There's just a story going on. And I know season 3 just started, but I am looking forward to finishing off season 1 and then just going right through it. Now, whether we review that here or not or talk about remains to be seen, but those kind of things that come up every now and then, you find a little bit of a gem like this
yeah,
movie or a TV show. That's what makes this kind of stuff fun, because when it's good, you just want to keep talking about it. Am I right?
yeah. And like I said, this movie, like I said, I don't. A lot of movies are mid to me. They're one and done watches. This is
Right.
like the Count of Crisco or the Man in Iron Mask. I watched those a couple of times. I love those. The Zorro movies, The Mask of Zorro. I love
Zorros are a
those.
lot of fun.
Oh, and like I said, I love those just as much as I love this. Uh, Now, would I prefer it in English dub? Sure, but I think it actually gives more of a feel of for the movie, presentation, because it's spoken in the French language. It's
Yeah,
French.
and when you watch Eva Green, you're talking about speaking and all that.
Yeah, that was weird though. It didn't sound like her. It sounded like it's somebody voice dubbing her.
I believe she's French,
I
so I
think,
would think it would
yeah,
be her, but
the
it's
accent
like
didn't
it's
sound.
like with other ones,
Yeah,
maybe the person dubbing it and that native language is not the actual actor or actress
yeah,
itself. So that may be possible. But that being said, when you watch her, you watch her lips and her eyes and just her face, and you don't stare at her assets or anything else, like, because
no,
she's a seductive, alluring woman. Like I said, you watch her and you just go, whatever she's saying to the actor during this movie, because she's quote unquote like the bad girl.
yep,
You can just see the emotions come across her eyes, and she's just so damn good at it, with kind of narrowing her eyes or opening up or smiling like she's trying to seduce somebody. Like when she went to whack the dude who didn't remember her
yeah,
because she's
yeah,
got the blonde hair thing going.
yeah,
She's just so good at it, and so even if you don't know the language and you're watching it, you know what's going on. That's when you know you've got a good movie, because it should be visual. And so, even I say, if you watch this on mute, you would know what is going on. You're like, okay, this person, that person, oh, this person's bad. Oh, they're doing this. That's great. It's not one of these talking exposition type things like we
yeah.
mentioned
Like I said,
and Demeter, the chick that was buried. Although that was cool, she was just there to kind of give some information, really.
yeah, like I said, the whole thing with the whole, as far as the settings, everything, the sets, when he's in the bar, how it looks, it goes back to the Hammer films, the attention to detail with Curse of Frankenstein, you know, everything, I love it here. And then there's the one guy who was told the cripple guy, the guy who only has one leg and a peg leg, he was told the bury the bodies, and they realize then when they dig them up, and these guys are missing rings. And then he tries to run away, hobble away, and the guy takes a gun and just shoots the peg leg out. I'm like, is he gonna kill him? No, he shoots a peg leg. The guy falls backwards.
It's not a deep
uh,
movie. It's not.
uh,
It's very easy to follow. Like I say, you don't have to
yeah,
know too much about it, but it works. It's
yeah.
it's
There's
it's
no
definitely a good movie to
there's
watch.
no one-liners like that. Like they said, that was the Disney version and all the one-liners. With
All right, anything you need to plug before we call it a night?
just stop over in a half an hour where the Geeky Puppet Show. We'll be talking about comic books book tonight. We're coming out this week. I'll do that for about an hour, and then after that, I'll be over on I Love Comics doing a Marvel RPG with Marania
And do you guys have a follow up stream later in the week?
on Thursdays. Tuesday nights and Thursday nights are 8 p.m. Central. So
And Thursday, you're reviewing what you're saying you got?
yeah, basically it's a comic book haul, what I bought, and then if I bought other books, like Tuesday night is pretty much where we just talk about the books that we think are going to be our favorites, and then Thursday's the follow up to see if our opinions changed. And sometimes I find back issues, and we show that off too. So
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I've thought about that format. Like, oh, hey, I found a movie here I haven't watched. This is why I picked it up. This is where I saw it.
Yeah,
Let's watch and talk about it. So
it's kind of
it's
like our summer
interesting how these
previews.
ideas go
Yeah,
back and forth. Yeah.
it's kind of like our summer previews. We look at it like, I'm looking forward to this movie, and then we finally get to the movie, and I was like, oh, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be, or maybe it's better. But, so
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Three Musketeers 2023. D'Artagnan. Say it for me.
D'Artagnan.
Thank you, D'Artagnan. There you go. Gesundheit. Definitely worth a watch when it comes around there too. We got a request for John Wayne coming up for an Xtreme Classic. I like the idea of that too. We'll be trying to knock out a lot of our suggestions here as we roll into mid-September, late September, so we get an early jump start on all the Halloween-y stuff that we want to be doing. So be looking forward to that.
Yep.
For RDV, I'm your host, Rob. Thanks for watching the Xtreme Movie Show and letting people know we exist. Thanks for all the suggestions and spending a little bit of time with us, just kind of listening to us talk about movies and giving your opinion about it. That's a lot of fun. Good night. Stay extreme.
Good night, guys.